Hey everyone, I'm Tassinix, and welcome to Plotting and Scheming, covering Season 58 3 vs 3 Grand Arena Championship, Week 3 for Star Wars Galaxy of Heroes. I am joined by my regular co-hosts Dagger, TJ, Sasha Aisha, and Fatal. Guys, it was a good week on a really successful season. I actually went 7-2. I lost the very last round of the season, which, it's a bitter note, but I lost to my guildmate, who had a real casual 15 plus million GP and over 1,400 Datacron rerolls. Every Cron on defense was like 380 plus % defense. It was a wild experience, but nonetheless, a good week. Dagger, how about you?
I just want to be clear. Is this the take that we're going to keep?
Yes.
Or are we restarting again?
No. So far, so good.
Okay.
I can always edit you out later.
Fair enough.
We'll fix it in post.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
No, it was.
There's a post?
Shut up.
I'm still waiting for the pre.
The upload button is the post production. Okay.
I'm sorry I missed last week. I listened to the show. It was good stuff, guys. But yeah, I went 3-0. Man, this week was brutal for my opponents because I went 1-2. So that means the last week I don't want to be mean to people I played, but yeah, it was my last round of my ninth round. Like, the guy didn't have great mothers. Like, that's where I was in GAC, just so you guys know.
All right. Fair spot to be.
Yeah, this last week was, I don't want to say easy because that sounds disrespectful, but no, I don't think anybody cleared my front wall this last week.
So it was hard?
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, like, I just placed the DTM, I just placed the Great Mothers team, and I don't think it was cleared all week.
Fair. Very fair. Before we move on from you, you also had some news to share with the people.
I'm not going to share that news publicly.
Oh, I thought that was the point. Okay.
That was a housekeeping item and not.
Yeah, that was a housekeeping item regarding how much I'm going to have to say on the meta reports going forward.
Mm-hmm.
That was not something I wanted to announce.
But definitely
in a game where
we can just edit that out of post.
Soon, in the near future.
Yeah. Definitely do not add that in. But of course, that's a good call.
Very good. Well, TJ, how about you? How'd your week go?
Actually, 3-0. So I think I'm with you, 7-2. And I got to give props, man. And we'll talk about it. But my last round, the dude Reigns, so he's in the top and done it. Man, he absolutely just crushed my defense. And props to him, dude. He was pulling up numbers. I was looking like biting my nails, but ended up getting the win because of ships. Because as you know, we all love ships. And I begrudgingly put it out that way. I'll take my dub, but it's not without its point. So 3-0.
All right. Fair enough. Sasha Aisha, sir, how was your week up there in fighting Erodium's land?
Yeah, I actually got I had multiple great matches. I had Aesop and Partik. I ended up going 2-1 in the week. I had a great match with Aesop. I won that one, and then a fun match with Partik as well that did not go my way. I didn't realize until too late that it was a little bit of an efficiency match, but it was good strategy and execution on Bebe's part in that match. Like, he just really played well. So, but really, yeah, fun matches. So a good week.
Awesome. Glad to hear that. And Fatal, how about you? How did the season end up? I know it's been kind of just a muted season for you, but how was this last week?
I mean, yeah, just kind of ended up down in the doldrums, and I think the season probably ended up as like a 6-3, but like, given those circumstances, it easily should have been 8-1, and like very arguably should have been a 9-0. Like, the 8-1 is literally like, to be clear, one match is like, hey, if you show up and do 5 fights, you win for free, and the other fight was lost because of a technical difficulty. So like, genuinely 2 free wins got lost, put me down to 6-3. But yeah, no, mostly it's just like, all right, I was down to like rank 600 or some shit. It's like, all right, this doesn't sit right with me. The match, like, barely anybody cleared more than his own this season. It's like, all right, enough is enough. Like, let me sit down and spend some time with the game and like get things moving in a decent direction.
Yeah, it's a fine line. I spent this season in like between like 150 and 300. It's a fine line, man. Running out of time to play the game, but also like wanting to actually have the competition when you do play.
Mm-hmm.
I just far prefer the competition. Like, honestly, if there's no competition, it feels like there's little reason to show up sometimes. It's just like, I don't want to do this. You don't want to do this. Like, I mean,
Yeah.
you know, I can still make some entertaining fights out of it, but it's just like, I don't want to ever have to feel like apologetic over like doing some Grand Arena, right? It's like, yeah. My preference with the game is I always want to be the underdog. The moment that I'm the favorite, it just feels kind of gross and like, yeah, not really a good vibe.
All right, well, fair enough. But I know at the end of the last week you were saying that you were gearing up to make a sustained climb. So you're gonna just tear through this next season, I imagine. Let's see the 8190 for that. Yeah.
Well, ironically, usually I would say 3v3 is the season where I just absolutely tear through. But given that I managed to lose 3 matches that I probably shouldn't have lost, now I'm in a position that I kind of need to do it in 5v5. And so here's hoping that it's just not a cheesy season because
the skill gap in 5s is narrower than the skill gap in 3s.
3v3 has historically just been like the print free wins season that like, yeah, I don't know. If this ends up just being a hyper efficiency season, then I cannot promise which way it'll go. Maybe I will just say fuck it, we're playing efficiency, or I might end up doing dumb shit again. But basically, the dynamic right now is I need to capitalize on 3v3 seasons because that's when the galaxy is good. That, you know, whatever happens in 5v5, it's within the budget.
Fair enough. All right. Well, guys, let's dig into the meta-analysis for this week. So, you know, probably not a ton of new matchups, but the first one I wanted to talk about was Great Mothers, Morgan, and then DTP. We were all talking about how Slacker, using the crew Slacker Hux counter, it can be impeded by DTP getting to have a turnoff when Slacker is not in his ultimate, so, you know, he'll have lowered his health a ton by being in that turn meter loop, and he can get himself one shot. I did fight this a couple times with Slacker and found that it was still workable. I had to manage a couple turns carefully, but otherwise it seemed pretty well in hand. Did you guys have any, contrary experience or any notes on that?
I got it to work without the 15% level 3.
You got broken up by what?
I got it to work without using the 15% level 3.
Oh, the turn meter level 3. Okay, so what did you use? Speed up? The speed up?
Yeah. I think I just had a brick. I just had a brick on level 3.
Okay.
And I still got it to work. The thing without Night Sister Spirit is that the team actually lacks overall damage, even though DTP's AoE, like, hurts. Don't get me wrong. Like, it tickled. Like, if you don't have negative hit HP, like, from the level 3, like, Spirit does so much more damage than DTP. It's hilarious. Also,
Fair.
Great Mothers getting the blessed every time is really... Morgan getting the blessed is like, okay.
Yeah, I mean, it is nice that she can't be stunned, but for all that it seemed to matter, yeah.
Yeah, that's all I mean. Is like, I think it's still harder. Like, I would imagine the win percentage is not like the 85% that it was, or whatever it was with the 15%, right? Because that win percentage was way higher, right? But I still think it'll work. I ended up killing Great Mothers, and worst case, I think you just lose the 1v1 to Morgan.
Okay.
It sounds awful to say, but you might just lose 1v1 to Morgan. But yeah, I don't know if anybody else has thoughts on that.
No, I tried it. I used that crew slacker approach against the Great Mothers DTP both times this weekend. I think one of them was with a TM level 3, the other with speed up. I was kind of curious to see the difference, and to me, it felt like it really came down to just sort of really monitoring turn meter and making sure that a grenade doesn't come off from DTP without your slacker being an alt. And yeah, so it worked pretty smoothly.
Honestly, it might be easy enough just to hold your ult like 2 turns, just to allow him to get close on turn meter, and then 3-turn ult to make sure that he throws his bomb while you're in ult.
Yeah, I got a little scared because I had just slightly over 1 ultimate charge in both of my battles when DTP looked like he had hazardously high turn meter, and so I ripped it and managed to just keep a loop going after I would go out of ultimate after only 1 swipe or whatever. But that was only using the turn meter cron. I will say that. I didn't take any chances at all. And still, things just barely worked.
I do want to make a speed up on basic attacker cron. I need to reroll a level 3.
For what case?
Just general use case. I found out that after talking to like a couple people that I don't have one.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I definitely have a couple. Yeah, they are nice. All right. If nobody else had any notes on that one, next was just going to be talking about splits of Saw and Luthen. For weeks 1 and 2, I pretty much saw Saw and Luthen together. Only here a couple times in week 3 did I see something like Saw, Krex, Kyle on one team, and then hidden in the back, tucked away would be Mon Mothma, Luthen, and Pow. And I will say, that is not something that you actually want to run up against with Iden. I thought it would be, and it turns out it was not. So, any experience fighting these splits, gentlemen?
I'm going to give you one more, thanks to Fatal. I did his cheeky one of trying to do the oldest supports, and it actually did get a hold round 2, and that was the Saw with Krex and Luthen on the same team, adding the support in there, and it did get a hold for me. When I faced the Saw, Luthen still feels solved with JML. Like I even provided the team with the video what I was able to do with it. But when you go into the Mon Mothma, I think that changes the game. I came up against it, but I didn't underestimate it. Saw Krex or MM Krex super easy with Iden. The minute you put in the Luthen, nope, I took Inquisitors. I was not playing with that team because I knew what they were going to try to do if I let it go. So nope. No, sir.
And I ended the Mon Mothma. Like you open on POW and then you Death Trooper terminate POW, and then the fight is just over.
Yeah, I think it probably depends on the Datacron and the comp.
How close to 400%
defense
was that Kron dagger? How close to 400 would you say?
About 355% away, probably.
Yeah,
all jokes aside, like I still think Iden is a winnable fight there. Especially with the attacker cron. The attacker cron plus Death Trooper is really nasty.
I would say the Swiggo disagrees with you, sir, but
I tried it, and it was not like that. I will tell you that. Attacker cron and all.
I just think it's a skill gap.
It could be.
Fundamentally, wouldn't the dynamic be more of like a ball check? Like, there's a matchup that plays exactly like this recently, actually. I think it's something to do with Great Mother Cron, but like right now it feels like we're again. Yeah, this year is very, very fucking bulk focused, but like now more than ever, there are multiple matchups where it's like, if you can be this tall that like, 33 or 25% of your team's regen is higher than massive damage, you can just trivialize a game plan like that. Or no, I think like one dynamic of it is like Gideon Kron against Great Mothers, that they just, because their pools are so inflated that they just like I beat a Great Mothers team that it was just like someone who owned Great Mothers but didn't own Morgan, and so they posted with Spirit. And it's like, no, I Gideon ruled that easily. The moment that Morgan's in the squad, I didn't even try it, but I just assumed, and other people that I talked to confirmed, is like, yeah, no, Morgan's regeneration just gaps you out, and so if we're talking Iden versus Pow, I'd imagine Pow's massive damage is probably the reason why you lost that, and also probably how you would try to attack that and try to beat it.
Yeah,
And
I
of
do
course,
think
that
I went
just
after
means-
Pow, and it just, it did not pan out, man.
No, I agree with you. I'm mostly just trying to touch it task. But I think that's one of those splits tasks that you're talking about. Like, when you can put a 400% defense datacron on something, the actual team barely matters.
Well, I mean, it matters a little because it took a few things. It took a few things to get through.
You know the point I'm trying to make. Like,
yeah, you can make a decent defensive team out of almost anything at that level
Yeah.
of defense. I take your point, but yeah, there was still enough stretch on my roster where it was going to be a challenge no matter what I did. And
oh yeah. I'm not arguing. I'm mostly just poking fun. But yeah,
it's fair.
I don't think that split is good for people who don't have like those massive crons to brick wall Iden.
Possibly, yeah, possibly.
Because, like I said, I fought against one and it had like 80% defense ish.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, it also was not like an R9 POW, right? It was just like, generic R7 POW. But it got rolled pretty hard by Death Trooper.
Fair. Yeah, you would be shocked to learn that I did, in fact, fight a Relic 9 POW. Yeah.
That's what... Yeah. Wow, it's almost like you heard what I said.
Yeah, exactly so. All right, if nobody has any other notes on those splits, I know we wanted to cover Enoch and DTP, which enabled a different split with Night Trooper. TJ, you had a note on that?
Yeah, it was. I guess I saw Zareth and Solo talking about it too, and I didn't get to face it all season, but came into play. Reigns last round put it in. And the idea is pretty cool, doing the alert level 6 and then his level 9 on the Datacron. Super cool idea. Yeah, I didn't play with that setup. If you go read it, it gives a wealth of little bonus added things that if you're not taking care of it, it's gonna screw you pretty well.
And I know you didn't specify, but I think I know what you mean. You're talking about the DTP level 9, right?
Right.
So
right.
whenever DTP crits an enemy, he gains damage immunity for 1 turn, can't be copied, 25% turn meter, and blinds that enemy for 1 turn, which can't be evaded or resisted. If the enemy was target locked, DTP also gains protection up 100%, stacking, retribution, and speed up for 2 turns. It's a lot. All right. So what made this? You had Enoch, DTP, and who was the third on that team you fought?
I don't remember. It wasn't good enough. I took JMK. I had it the way
it didn't matter because you weren't playing with it regardless. Okay, fine.
Because I was reading the concept of it, right? And it was like, this is not one where you want to die on the hill just because if you don't get to kill it correctly, what DTP is doing with that alignment was a pretty big shift. Mm-hmm. And I know we'll talk about it, but the DTMG being still set up with Night Trooper was a great. So that split was pretty cool, and being able to keep that option and nothing you wanted to mess with just in case, because if you start getting into the immunities or something else, that felt really bad.
Yeah, I'd be curious to know where his Scout Trooper was in either trio.
It was with the DTMG.
Okay.
Remember to pick up a Stormtrooper Cron.
Yeah, for the turn meter reduction, right?
For next 3v3, because you're gonna split these teams, right? So make sure you're picking up. Make sure you're picking that one up. That one's going to be really good.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Gotcha. All right.
You also didn't have it written down, but as someone who saved Queen Amidala all month, I think she was. I don't know what the next concept's going to be. Obviously, it's probably going to have some mercenary, some bullshit on it.
Mm-hmm.
But I will say that team beat the Stormtrooper Han Kron. Beat JMK.
Yep.
Yeah.
Like, the ceiling.
That Queen Amidala squad was the determining factor in both of my real matches this week. It's just, I mean, the support Kron, this is its last appearance in 3v3, so we'll see what she's got working for next time we come back. But that great support Kron with high defense was nuts. I had it in the back. Well, I think against Aesop, he probably had assumed I had held Queen Amidala for offense. I didn't. I had it in the back wall. He lost 20 battles on it and couldn't clear it. And then, I think it was the deciding factor in, Partic did a bunch of stuff right in that battle that I had with him. But one of the things was he saved his Queen Amidala, didn't set it on D, and was able to one shot my Leia in the back with it. Like it was huge. I wanted it on defense because it's so fun having like a really potent defense and getting those holds like it against Aesop is great. But I instinctively I was thinking I bet the better move trying to win is probably holding it on offense because it clears almost everything.
I'll say I failed. I had the one chance of a fail with the queen against the STH setup. They got around it, and then I got stuck on the taunt, and it was just enough to pop my queen Amidala.
Did you take the support?
Was Drogon the third?
Of course.
Did you hold your dispel with Queen Amidala?
No, open up the dispel with Queen Amidala to start hitting the damage and start ramping the buffs.
Yeah. So what I do with that fight is I hold her dispel to make sure that the taunt isn't on Stormtrooper Han with the buff immunity.
I think it's fair. I could see that definitely being the one.
I'm not saying you misplayed or anything. I'm just saying that.
I agree. I think
stuck
there's a good call.
For Han in one of my fights and was still able to pull it out, and then I just started holding her dispel until.
I think it's a good call. I think that's a great piece. We don't get to use it now, right? But I think that one piece. Yeah. But yeah, that's exactly what happened, right? So I wanted to start getting the buffs to getting her the logic to kick in, and yeah, it was with Drogon as the third. But it was just a good enough setup where I couldn't get to it fast enough, and then they popped my POW. And once your POW is dead, your team is dead.
That's another reason to mod for health really quick. Because if you're going to fight against something like Drogon who goes under your prot, you definitely want both of those characters' health stats.
And he did, man. POW was pooped. And when POW was pooped, there went the team. And I will say that mine held as well, and I have a sneaking suspicion it was their queen. And if I had to guess, probably the same thing happened in one of the fights. Obviously, we don't have the data, but everybody, I didn't see it. And I even told Tass in one of our little shenanigans, I was like, to me, the best thing in the back, because everybody's keeping it, is putting that queen. So it kind of look at what Sasha's saying. It completely tracks that. It just that in the back, because everybody's so prone to want to keep it because they don't want to deal with the Leia, which was the staple defense character or our team.
Yeah.
Putting that back there is it's like putting a GL back there, right? Because now you're like, oh, it's fine, and then you walk along, and then there's a wall for you to hit.
Mm-hmm. I will say, as a user of Queen on offense all week this week, twice on Leia, one of those times I really came close to losing my POW, and I have just over 150% defense on that set 16 crown that I was using. So I imagined that it would be, quote unquote, safe at 200 plus, but that's a pretty high threshold, and obviously we won't be having that back next time. So
and a mix of health. If you're going against Leia, you also want a mix of health on that cron, because the hots will pull you back out.
Yeah, I didn't have that. I didn't have any health on it. I just had I had I want to say 50% crit damage and 150% defense. So, if I had more defense or the health instead of the crit damage, probably would have felt safer.
Yeah, because I was rocking with 100% defense and 40% health, and nothing felt close.
All right, fair enough. No, that's a good point, though. Queen on offense. That's a good one.
Like Lord Vader, Malgus, Savage. She beats Savage, so that's another thing that she does that's interesting. Gungans.
Mm-hmm.
It's more of like what Sasha said. The question is more of what doesn't she beat versus what does you know what I mean?
Yeah, certainly for this last, hurrah of set 16 anyway.
I have a feeling. Well, I mean, you have the Qui-Gon Cron coming up, so I assume the Qui-Gon Sun Cron is going to do. The only things I can think of that you'd struggle against without the support cron also use support crons or tank crons.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll see.
Oh, very good.
Really enjoyed that team on offense. I think a lot of more people are going to learn how to use that team.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I eagerly embraced using that team on offense. The satisfaction of that POW swipe is just mwah. All right.
Also, basicing Leia for 280k always feels good.
Yeah. I fought in the third round Leia that had tank revive on the cron, so she came back, and it's like, okay, so we have to do this again, lady. And then next basic, and she died. It was good.
Yeah.
I had fun. All right.
Really quick, Sasha. do you echo our like? Hey, have you tried this team on offense? 'Cause I know you said you played it on defense, but do you have any
Yeah, I
experience
think
with
I tried it once last week on offense to clear a Leia. I just saw the opponent I knew would be setting Leia, and that was I thought my most sensible option. So I did that, and it was nice. It maybe took a little bit to ramp, and then suddenly like you one shot and blow up a GL. That's pretty cool. But I I have been finding like in the this meta, which we're just transitioning out of, has been like a serious blood sport. Like it's been a lot of fun, the matches that I've had. In fact, like I think I've only been cleared once. And I've only cleared maybe like two times. Like it's been like pretty intense defenses. And this is one of those defenses, like we've been saying, that is like the least forgiving if you don't have a proper counter.
Yeah.
So it just became too appealing to have in the back.
What about you, Fatal? Have you gotten any experience with Queen on offense?
I am the last person who will ever pull a team like that's the offense. I regret to inform.
No,
No, it's
more than
It's
recent.
hard. No, I won't be doing.
What?
No, more than recent.
I
Yeah,
think
this
Fatal
is that good
more
on defense,
likely.
though.
Fatal was probably more likely to set Queen Amidala with two different Galactic Republic characters than Pow and Master Qui-Gon and find a completely different use for them than he would be to take them to offense.
Yeah.
Fair.
Uh,
All right, our last item, guys, before we talk about the best attack and defense. No, actually, let's do that, and then we'll talk about Shin Marrok after that. It seems to make more sense to me. So, best attack and defense of the week. Defense, for me, I really liked the split in the back of DTMG, Knight, Scout, and then Lord Vader, Gideon, Royal. Not claiming to have come up with it, just saying I found it really effective. I found that when I was planning, I didn't feel like I necessarily needed DTMG with Gideon for offense, and so I decided to run with that, and I got holds. It was partially determinant for one of my wins, so I like that one a lot. Offense wise, I mean, favorite attack doesn't always have to be a winner. I just need more practice with Mother Terran, Mother Talzin Marin. Mother Terran, jeez.
I don't know Malikos transition. Congrats to him.
Yeah.
We are forward thinking here.
yeah, you gotta live your real life.
Yeah. So anyway,
Oh, that's why he moved to Dathomir. Gotcha.
I heard he's okay with sand.
yeah, you move to Dathomir when you're going mad anyway, and then you blame it on the madness there. It's like, this place, it's so bad for you.
We don't judge. There's no king shaming there.
But anyway, though, seriously, Mother Talzin, Marin, Asajj, I just was careless with it, and I need to practice it more. Because if I was cleaner on that, or I didn't have Dash Han Chewie fail for me for the first time against a very high defense again, Trench, Django, and Watt, man, it would have been a win right there. So good times. How about you, Dagger? Favorite defense and attack of the week?
Yeah, so I started this week in the mid 300s, and I just put Jabba, DTMG, or no, I don't remember what my front wall was. I just placed my front wall down, and people just impaled themselves because I was bigger, I was fatter, I was longer. I'm still talking about my account. No, and my favorite attack is still I got Starkiller to work versus Ray all 3 rounds against Ray, Ben, Nest.
And that was either orientation of Nest?
What do you mean either orientation of Nest?
He's talking about the revive. He's talking about the revive level 9.
The revive level 9 wouldn't have changed anything. It was just whack-a-mole. Like Ray died in the first 45 seconds. Like she just dies so fast, especially if you take the support crop. Starkiller's hitting for like 300k on basics, and you eventually just. I had one of my fights against Nest. The Nest was only R7. This Nest was only R7, but she had I had done like the MJ assist and the EP assist, and then Starkiller took his turn and one-shot her. He didn't take a turn. He just one-shot her with all that like stacking bonus prod. And you're gone.
I did that once as well this season. I was impressed with how hard you can hit through that bonus protection. It was it's rare to see that.
But with the support cron, not with the attacker cron. So that adjustment made that fight like just easy breezy.
All right. TJ, how about you? Your favorite attack and defense of the week?
My favorite defense is the one that Taz stole from me, which would be the back wall, fuckwad. But I think one piece that I think you missed, Taz, that helped out with that and actually did very well was that DTP lined up, and that was through your suggestion. So to me, it was kind of like a trifecta. They were both bottom front, so the bottom front having the sisters with the DTP, it held rounds 1 and 2, and then on both holds, it took 3 attempts to kill it. Nice. So that combo, and then you put the back wall of having that Gideon. Round 1 opponent didn't clear. It took 6 attacks into my LV with with Gideon, and didn't clear, and they just stopped from that fight. And then again, that was my holds all week. So I think to me that combo of that up front with those in the back served a great purpose.
All right. Fair enough. Yes, strategy definitely mattered more in week 3 than weeks 1 and 2, for sure.
Yeah, it's just that funnel to me.
Good on you for coming out as a bottom, TJ. That's not something many men would admit.
Well, it can't be really a bottom when I'm the one giving the information, so that makes me more of the top than somebody else receiving. So, but again, we don't king shame here. Who are we not to be forward thinking people?
Okay, Sasha. How about you? How was, what your favorite attack and defense of the week was?
For attack, part of it was, I had, like I mentioned, this entire 3-week season has been a hell of a mess. I've been pleased with my defenses and embarrassed of my offensive performance. So anytime I could find a decent solution to some of the major pains in my ass, I was very happy. And I had a couple of fails using Bane against Queen Amidala squads. So I no longer felt comfortable with that because I was facing ones with 400% defense. I didn't have sufficient armor pen on any of my datacrons, but I'd struggled with that. But finding Bane working smoothly against Saw Luthen and frankly, like I did it twice, Saw Luthen, once Drogon, once Saw Luthen, and Krex. That if you'd told me, a few weeks ago, I would have figured that would be a sure thing. But for me, it was just a huge relief to be able to have something that seemed comfortable against a Saw Luthen squad. So that was up there for me. That was like one of the few things that worked consistently on offense. And then defense, we already talked about is Queen Amidala. I had a few different drops that I got from folks, but a lot of times it was just because they were throwing everything against, like in Aesop, I mentioned there were 20 attacks against Queen Amidala. So a few other things held. I had goofy Nest, Queel, IG-11 with a really nice Nest cron. No doubt a player of Aesop's caliber is going to steamroll that, but it was, it's still got a hold. But I'm sure it's just because Queen Amidala, got basically everything up to the kitchen sink. So that was the difference maker for me. Yeah, nothing else stands out without having actually seen the history and what anybody else has used. So there may be nuggets of of cool finds, but I don't
fun
have
fact, viewers, everyone at home. Yes, Swugga.gg hadn't updated yet by the time of our recording here. We usually try to have that available for this, but not today.
Week three, it doesn't update till Wednesday.
Yay.
But no, I'm with you, Sasha. I used Bane versus Saw once too. I generally opt for the budget JML. That's the budget option. God, that he does not feel like a fucking GL right now.
Sticking with Plo, that can do some serious stuff, but
no, that's I believe that. I believe that for sure. All right,
I think we're gonna have a really quick.
Sure, go ahead.
I guess this kind of parlays. I'll save it for when we talk. Are we going to talk about the next 3v3?
Yeah, absolutely. We can cover that a little bit.
Yeah, because I was going to say, I think that this current set that just came out is going to shine next 3v3 because we just opted out of a lot of the level 9s because we have the really cracked set previously.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And I really, really look forward to being able to utilize the Plo Cron. I want to find a use for the Eat Cost Cron because like the old Crons are just better. In 3v3 at least. Yeah, I really look forward to this set because, man, how many Jedi teams can you make in 3v3 that didn't? Man, it's gonna be fun. There's a lot of 3v3 teams with Jedi.
Mm-hmm. 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 Yeah, and defense stat is still all over set 17, so defense will still be part of next 3v3 meta all over. Very fair. Fatal, how about your favorite attack and defense of the week? What you got?
To be honest, nothing really specific stands out. It's just the end result of being the favorite and the natural conclusion of my playstyle.
Mhm.
Right? I spread people wide and go for fatigue playstyle. And I mean, the lower my rank gets, I always call it as like a life draft or something. Is like, at some point, it's literally impossible for my rank to drop past a certain point because the defense. I would just have to not attack, which is technically what happened once this season. But
What kind of madman would just not attack, right?
there were multiple matches this season where an opponent had between like 200 or 500 points, and it wasn't because any one team was unique or did anything specific. It's just like, no, man, I have placed multiple rakes into my defense, and if you step on one, then it's probably teeing you up to, or forcing you to step on more later until you're just. It's just not a pleasant place to be. And so by the time that it comes around to me attacking, I could just do the laziest, worst, dumbest for fun attacks possible, and
Very nice.
still roughly get away with it. Mostly, I guess it's just Night Sisters did well on offense against Jabba towards the end of the year. I still think Attacker Kron probably had me in a sort of checkmate, and the one thing I didn't explore is having set 17 pick up the tenacity work and then just going like full bulk mods or something like that to try to contest it. But still, even then, right? It's like,
Yeah.
that dynamic there is fully just, did they attack your Marin or not? But I think I got punished once or twice at the start of the season, but towards the tail end, I got to fight a bunch of Jabbas and just did not get punished or very much at all.
Fantastic.
I don't know. It kind of continued to work out. I actually don't think I've completely solved that matchup. There were a couple of things that I realized of like, when I was fighting like support Jabba and I knew that Bausch was about to do her AoE with the stacked crit damage, I dodged it with magic stealth, and that actually like bailed me out and set me up for a win. I think strategically reviving yourself, because my Datacron was very good at keeping my team alive when I needed them to die.
Yeah.
And so that put me in a position to like have to work on the matchup of like, okay, Jabba's about to ult soon. He's on 4 deaths going into 5. Let me start to revive myself or like kill my TM train so that I can't make protection so that he can kill Talzin. And then that worked, and like that let me through that. I guess I would say that was a bit of a highlight. It's like, okay, that's a bit of mechanical skill that I had to put out that I didn't have to put out prior. So that was cool.
Fair. I mentioned the one that I bungled, but the one that I didn't bungle and I still nonetheless lost is where I had Mother Talzin and Asajj dead, and I was on auto basic and we were stacking up going just fine. And then the high turn meter Jabba did in fact get that next turn, used his ultimate, and topped himself back off and damned our chance of the one shot. I wonder if you know what that was about, because we were well and truly in the loop, and I don't understand how he interceded on us there.
Yeah, so functionally, the killing Jabba is just a function of time. And so, for example, like if you successfully get to Marin last woman standing, you can just, like, if you know the Jabba's about to ult, as long as you just make sure that you maintain the instant defeat immunity, you can just repeatedly let him take turns, cycle the ult out. Because basically what can happen is if you know that, okay, within like whatever, 2 or 3 Jabba turns, he's going to threaten ult, that wipes out all the progress and all the time that you put in prior. So let's say you go into a Jabba race with like 3 minutes, right?
Yeah.
And then you hit auto basic, but then a minute and a half in, the ult cycles. You've lost that minute and a half, and you're probably not going to get it done with that last minute and a half.
Right.
That if you know that's a threat on the table, you definitely. It's something that I used to do. I guess I'm kind of just in a spot where it hasn't come up recently because I haven't really had to think about it. But yeah, 100%. That's what you do in that spot is you selectively let it cycle first so that you diffuse that bomb and then you just hit the auto basic. Because even if he ults, right, it's not like a team revive or anything. It'll heal himself to
Right.
tops, but then you'll be 2.5 to 2 minutes 15 seconds left on the clock, and you can still easily just run him down. For your rank though, the other I did lose one this season, and I figured it was going to be a loss, and I did. The early game was a little bit tricky that I did take a few 20 30 seconds to think, but I think even if I hadn't done that pause, I think I would still lose. I lost to a 380% defense Kron, and that's just kind of, to a degree, it's unavoidable, right? Like the way the counter runs now, you do have to worry about your damage output, right? Like in the era of the Plague Kron, you could literally kill Jabba exclusively via the Plague percentage, even though it's reduced to almost 0 on a GL. You just printed 1,000 or 2,000 of it, then you could kill a GL with percent held damage, and that was just how absurd it was. But yeah, the 308% defense stonewalled me. I probably would have won in like 45 or 50 more seconds, but I just kind of what you're saying, but just an extension of it. The matchup can be a function of time, and the ults interacts with that, and defense crons interact with that. That like, unironically, can be a factor in high level play.
Okay, well, yeah, I appreciate you breaking that down. Yeah, that fight's just something I need more practice with. So I'll have the chance again. So all right, so nothing else otherwise stuck out for you, Fatal. Let's check back in with the agenda here. Yeah, let's talk about Shin and Marrok here. So we're some weeks away from Balin's kit being announced, let alone him joining us in the game. How you guys thinking you might make use of these characters ahead of Balin joining?
Well, Merrick's actually really good.
Mm-hmm.
Well, obviously we haven't got our hands on him yet as of this recording.
He isn't in game, right? Not yet.
No.
Okay.
No.
Okay.
But he looks really good, and I'm not saying anything mean about Shin, but she, I guess, kind of can. She's probably better than Fulcrum on Seer if you have her. But I don't know if she like toggles that team up or down at all. Probably not.
I heard people flexing her a little bit here in threes, and nobody came back with anything that sounded impressive. At least early on.
I think temporarily she's, if you have her built, she's just like a Fulcrum replacement on Seer. I haven't really seen a ton of her doing amazing stuff. Fatal's one of our testers / theory crafters, so he'd probably have more on that.
I have thoughts, but I'll save them towards the end.
Okay.
Not the end of the show, but just like
the end of this segment. I mean, sure, fair. I mean, for my part, I can show you what I've got cooking with Shin. Just like a generic setup that seems good, and I appreciate TJ because he mentioned something I forgot about, some aspect. Oh yeah, it was the crit avoidance. Yeah, this character does want a crit avoidance arrow, so the way I ended up setting her up was just over 300 speed, crit damage triangle. I put her in a potency cross, and then between that and just a little bit of potency through secondaries, have her just over 100%. She does have AoE turn meter increase, a couple debuffs worth putting out, so some amount of added potency. Strong offense secondary on the potency cross got her up over 10,000 physical. She, with very little crit chance added, it's over 90% crit chance. So I feel like that's a decent default. Obviously, depending on what Balin's lead is passing out, this could be significantly overhauled. But that's at least as far as mod setup is in terms of application. Yeah, nothing brilliant comes to mind right now. She doesn't seem to fit anywhere great. I don't know, but if you guys are doing anything different,
I want to see. For me personally, I like. So what I think what Diger says is true. I think there's something there. I know the whole Soldier of Fortune and stuff like that, but when I was reading the kit, what seems interesting to me is the turn meter gains and what it can do. How does that play out with Riva? If we're talking about 3 specifically, there's a lot of build-in of keeping that stored up, and depending on what we see for the next set, is that the 7th replacement? Because I don't think you're not pulling out what GI can do. But it feels like Marrok will be really good in that team. It's got a whole bunch of applications for team gains and just making things more of a fun fight, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have much of the kit committed to memory as of yet, but any matchups you're potentially just, you read the kit and you're like, oh, I wonder if this enables that matchup or improves that matchup.
I don't. I think we have to wait for DC if you want me to be honest.
Sure.
I just think it's
looks generically good, but not clear
Stato's
how
talked
yet.
about the puzzles, right? Now I always like the word because he does the puzzles. I think it's an interesting puzzle to the fight. If you're starting to mess with things, and if we're always set to the same semblance of the team, right? Everything goes this way. There's a chance for 7th to respawn or to get the turn meter. This is what's going to happen with GI. Marrok has some identity in there to keep adding in. So if somebody resists or something happens with their stuff, I think that's cool. And then also the passive turn meter gains that are going to happen in that can just mess with your fight of, oh, I didn't expect him to go already. What happened here?
Also, this is kind of sort of a non sequitur, but I find it amusing that CG tends to gate power levels of characters behind their bespoke datacrons. For example, like Pow got one, but Qui-Gon didn't, because once you had both of them, they functioned. And neither of these characters got their own datacron because they're both just good. Like, you can use them out of the box, so to speak. I don't know who you replace it. Like, in 5v5, because I think you replace 8th maybe with Marrok temporarily. It really just depends because he gives a fair amount of utility there, and the team doesn't really lack damage. In 3s, I don't really think he has a home with Inquisitors, and by the time the next 3v3 comes around, we'll have Balin. Presumably, we'll have Balin, or we'll be talking about Balin for week 2, right? One of those kind of things, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, I don't know where I would even think about using him until I knew we wouldn't have Balin.
All right, Fatal. I think we're about done on that segment, so jump on in.
All right. So, if I'm doing some tea leaf reading here, I have a few balls that I think I can call with like 20% confidence.
Okay.
Cold take is we'll get Balin. He's coming with the Datacron. We know this. It'll probably be like Grandmother Datacron. Sure. So Balin comes out. He'll be on defense for a while, I would imagine. I would fucking hope, I guess. I don't know. Past that point, though, if you look at Ezra's kit and you look at Marrok's kit, I think at this point, it's almost not even subtle that I think CG is pretty blatantly teeing up that Balin will be a common counter to Ahsoka. That if you look at, for example, Ezra's kit already gave me the idea that I think Ahsoka is going to be a Jedi Ufu bridge. I mean, again, maybe not even that crazy to think. It's just like, hey, he's got callouts for both. That's weird. And then Marrok, the unique, has callouts for both. And then you look at Marrok is printed with text such as, whenever a mercenary gets resisted, the team gains 10% turn meter or something. And then you look at, well, Ezra has a shitload of tenacity built into his kit and his team. that it sure would seem like CG is planting the seeds to allow mercenaries to just get an absolutely insane TM train given the opportunity. That's weird. That it seems like it's entirely possible that all this would be bullshit, but it really does seem to me like in a semi-cynical way that like you're gonna get your Balin pay to win cron, and then it almost implies to me that Ahsoka might have some defensive viability, and that they're almost kind of creating a problem and then selling a solution in the form of Balin at the same time. That I don't know if that'll be true, but I think a lot of puzzle pieces snap in just the right ways. That's kind of my assumption or expectation of the near future. I think that will be the dynamic going on between these characters.
Okay. And as long as it's similar to like the Starkiller versus Rey, where it works most seasons, I think it's probably fine. There's gonna be a lot of unhappy people because Balin's gonna be just skull fucking her with that datacron.
Well, I mean, she's not coming until December. Well, he's coming, November? So she's
November.
Late December.
Yeah, she'll have 3 months of Balin skull fucking Ahsoka.
Yeah, 2 or 3 or something, but like...
Yeah.
Right, again, depending on how Ahsoka hits, if she's defensively viable, and he's defensively viable, ooh, there's friction. Yeah. What if you want to postpone?
Exactly, yeah. Okay, so all right, so yeah, some prognostication about how they might be applied with Balin, but no bright ideas jumping at you here for the early part of this, this near future where there is no Balin.
Oh, for using them, I just assume they're not even real units. I don't even treat them as existing. Okay. Marrok, I mean, fair. That unique...
Yeah.
The unique requires the Inquisitors to be proactive to be able to cash in the cleanse, right? That it wouldn't have anything to do with Phoenix. I don't think Phoenix will still just kind of go for the lockdown plan because their Terminator train happens automatically, and this is a reactive solution to a automatic proactive game plan. I don't know. Like, if Seventh Sister Hyrule is like a Captain Rex days, but do you really want to waste your Inquisitor team on like a 15% what if type situation? I don't know. I assume the character isn't going to be all that real. Maybe you get some cutesy usage out of the cleanse synergy for some Inquisitor matchup. But yeah, for the most part, I mean, I'm kind of treating these characters how I treat most Conquest units, which is like, until the Conquest unit is out, the kit reveal is like kind of fun to think about, and then I just forget about it for 3 months. And these characters, it's like, technically I could use them, sure. It's kind of fun to think about, but I'm not gonna post. I post Seer on defense. I am that guy. I'm that pervert. I'm not putting Shin on that team. No, absolutely not.
All right.
Oh, I was mostly speaking to 5v. I was mostly speaking to how I don't think either of these characters have 3v3 applications.
No.
I was mostly that was the point I tried to make when I'm like, in 5s you can replace Fulcrum.
Yeah, I hear you.
Like,
right. You don't even want to replace Fulcrum, though.
I don't think so either. I think she's better.
I'll defend her honor.
Yeah, look. All I'm saying is you have like one kind of like extraneous damage dealer on the team, and it could be either.
Here's one other ball that I will call is so we're about to enter. Well, not about to. Once set 16 goes, people are going to have to square away the fact that Qui-Gon is unironically better at damage than Pow is, despite the flavor of the team would seem like, well, Pow is the hyper carry, and it's like, no, not even. It's not a. In order for it to be a rivalry, it's got to be semi close, and it's not fucking close, right? Like, you put Cam in the team, it's nitrous to Master Qui-Gon, and Pow is doing half of his. So, but I suspect, because CG is called Balin a bruiser, and for a character to be a bruiser and not a tank, that implies that they will do damage. And you also see Shin as being kind of printed with a fair amount of utility within her kit, and not necessarily just doing damage. I think we'll have a similar dynamic to Qui-Gon and Pow. I think Balin will probably end up being a lot of the meat and potatoes, and Shin... I mean, we're kind of entering this era of the game where CG is exploring these kind of hybridized roles, right? You have Ezra who crits people, but not necessarily to do damage up front, but to get effects. Mm-hmm. And to some degree, I do think characters like Pow and possibly even Shin could be doing similar roles where, they are providing critical functions to the team, but they are not necessarily the guy or the gal.
And for the record, folks, when you're saying Pow, you're meaning Padawan Obi-Wan, not Pal.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, I forgot that.
Yeah. Problems with our language. Yes.
Thank you for catching me. Yes, Padawan Obi-Wan is not the best damage dealer of the team. It is not even close.
Sorry.
No, just I'm saying with Datacron's out of the picture, right?
Well, yeah.
Palcron shifted that. Attacker Cron, yeah, of course, infinite scaling damage. Yeah, sure, yeah, great. But now that we're kind of regressing back to a more normally balanced game, the reality of the situation is kind of coming home to roost. But, yeah.
Fair enough. Okay.
I was also going to say really quick regarding
sure.
Balin being a bruiser.
Yeah.
Like, when we think about the bruisers we already have in game, the first things that pop into mind are, like, Rey, to a degree, both Malicos and Starkiller, because you want to bulk them plus offense them.
I don't think of them as bruisers. Bruisers are functionally meant to take damage, right?
I understand. I'm thinking about how you mod them.
Yeah. When I think bruiser, I'm thinking Reva. I think Reva when I think bruiser. Sorry, go ahead.
Sure. I mean, Reva's a tank, though, not a bruiser.
I don't think I don't think Galaxy of Heroes has ever actually had a true bruiser. And CG called this out when they announced Balin, and I think I would probably agree with it. The thing that's funny about this is kind of the broader issue that, like, I mean, bruiser is a term that I think largely originated around League of Legends. Not that, like, I know League's not the original mobile,
yeah,
right? But, like, I think the community kind of originated that. Bruisers in League of Legends have been like a nightmare to balance. That, in a funny way, Riot saying we're gonna make a bruiser has some subtext and implications of, like, there are worlds where, like, I mean, Scion I think would be like the first character that was kind of positioned in that space, but just had these massive issues that, like, I mean, let me tell you, man, it is so depressing to play Scion with a Tankron. And to see signs of life, of, like, literally, CG should just take the text from the level 6 of Tank Datacrons and give it to Scion as, I would say Omicron, but just give it to him as a rewear so he could just use it everywhere. The character's kit suddenly snaps into place. Like, right, his basic has a self-cleanse, so, like, if an ally calls him to assist, and he assists, he cleans himself up, which is something that's pretty good for tanks to be doing these days. Like, but that character can actually do some respectable damage, and, like, is kind of in the vein of a bruiser. And then we entered this kind of era of hell scaling. Maul kind of did it. Rey did it, but defensively, Malgus has kind of done it. Now we're kind of entering this era of offense matters, but also we want them to be hard to kill. And what the fuck does that mean?
Does that mean that you would qualify Bo as kind of a bruiser?
I don't even know what I would call her. Period. She's a combo piece.
That's fair. I'm just saying she's relatively thick and hits reasonably hard.
Yeah,
has utility.
I like the idea of thinking about something like Malgus or Reva better because
Reva's not a bruiser though. She's just a straight up fucking tank.
Well, let me qualify the case because, first of all, I don't think you can be considered a bruiser. I agree with Fatal's interpretation that the term's largely from League of Legends. And to my mind, you're on the front line. Like, you're not having somebody else covering you. That's why you're there. All right? You are there for that. And you also do appreciable damage over the course of an extended engagement. Right? You don't have great burst damage, but you offer something compelling damage-wise over the course of an extended fight. And I think Reva and Malgus both fit in that role to me. I understand how you mean that they're properly serving as tanks, and I don't disagree, but their damage feels more bruisery, and that's why I think of them that way.
So Reva doesn't really do damage. Reva's like a utility tank.
She does. I don't know. I feel like she does an appreciable bop with that middle of hers.
I have a lot of offense on her, and she doesn't do a ton of damage. She does some,
Yeah.
but like she does like tank damage, not.
I would exactly. You would distinguish
you guys
it from
know
a
the
true
lore about
damage
Reva?
dealer. Right. Sorry, go ahead.
Do you guys know the lore about her release?
About Reva's release?
No, I'm curious to hear that.
She was an attacker, and her
Yeah.
relic mastery is based on attacker mastery. That she doesn't actually get the tank level 9 benefits.
Really?
And then I reported to CG that the level 9 was not giving her what she should get. That she's getting way less than what she should get, and CG knows about it, and they actually chose to keep her as is. She was designed in that space, but I actually kind of tend to agree with Dagger that I don't really think of her as a bruiser. Like, yes, the middle does bop occasionally, but in terms of the role, right? I mean, this is why I'm curious to see Balin's kit, because how do you elicit the feel of a bruiser in Galaxy Heroes is an interesting question.
Yeah.
I think one thing that's going to be key is it's going to be the need to create a character who feels like they can shrug off a lot of debuff attempts and possibly whack you back at the same time while doing it, right? It's kind of going to be this kind of what you get with, like, I mean, Malgus has a lot of good rules for, like, you can't do this to me, you can't do that to me. I'm okay with this happening. But when he counterattacks you, it's not felt immediately, right? He's stacking his health that you will get punished for later on on his percent health nuke. But it's not felt immediately, right? Like, imagine if a character like Malgus was actually, it doesn't even have to be crits or offense. Like, let's say every time he counterattacks you, he does 10 or 20 or 25% of his health per basic. And all of a sudden, those counterattacks, which can happen fairly often to you in those fights, all of a sudden become holy shit, this is kind of not okay.
The way I view, like, after just like thinking about it briefly here while listening to you talk about Malgus, I think the way that you create bruisers in Swugga is just make them do health % damage on their attack.
Well, that's holistically a big part of the design space, right? League has some characters that just like build a bunch of attack damage, or like have just really high base damage that they just build armor pen or whatever, and they will just mow down your squishies while having to do very little compromise. I mean, I haven't played League in years, so some of my stuff might be.
Well, yeah, and then you can go.
Yeah, we're just trying to make analogous terms here. It makes sense.
Yeah, and I think Malgus is a good example of someone like you were describing, where when you put it with Malgus, you have two tanks, so you can make the argument that he's not the tank on a lot of his teams. And that's kind of the way I kind of decipher bruisers is, are you the tank of your team? No. Like you were saying earlier, Master Qui-Gon might end up being sort of a bruiser. I don't know what his like actual survival splits look like, but he does health % damage, and you want to bulk him out.
Fair, yeah. All right, guys. It's been a fun season. I actually had a great time, and yeah, I mean, we all expected Set 16 to dominate it. It won't be a factor next time, but yeah, like Dagger said, we'll see what the substitutions with Set 17 in for 16 are going to do. But let's go ahead and wrap this up. The takeaways, the final thoughts. Dagger, why don't you kick us off? What do you think here, wrapping up the season? And, what do you kind of have on your mind going, what are you looking to try maybe next time we head into threes, just based on where we stand now? With 16 going out the door, 17 still here, and 18 not yet announced.
I think this season was probably one of the more tolerable 3v3 seasons of recent. Not just because defense mattered, but also because I felt like there was actually like a skill gap to a degree. Like the counters evolved from week to week. So if you were on top of things, you got rewarded, and if you weren't on top of things, you got punished. And I think that specifically feels healthier to me than previous 3v3 formats. And I don't look forward to the next season because I imagine that the mercenary crons we're going to get are going to be pretty AZ, especially since we presume we'll have Balin at least for at least a couple weeks of the next 3v3. And I just sorry.
Wait, I didn't even think about mercenary level 6. I mean, that's hitting on shit like Afra. They're just gonna
actually a lot of characters.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's what I'm saying. Like, I'm not I'm not looking forward to that. That feels kind of AIDSy because the faction's so fucking big. Cal having a level 6,
Yeah.
right? Like, oh, good.
This is just going to be the rerun of the Ufukron, where it's just like,
Yeah.
Is it that, or do we get even bigger and it's part of the 16 because that faction has so many areas that it gets like the support big, right? Because that's a lot.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, I'm not looking forward to that in the sense that you have to like, man, the Kron building for next set is going to be absurd. But yeah, I look forward to next season hopefully being similar to this season because historically I've been one of the bigger 3v3 haters on this show, and I don't want to go as far as say that I enjoyed this season, but as I already kind of laid out, like this season felt relatively balanced and it felt rewarding if you were dialed in. And I appreciate that from 3v3 because that's not usually a feeling I get from this. And knowing that 5v5 coming up is going to be just back to the efficiency grind. Woohoo!
It's true. It's true. All right. Well,
those are kind of my takeaways. Is the TLDR is this is the closest I've come to enjoying a 3v3 season I can remember recently, and man, I am waiting with bated breath for the next Datacron set because boy howdy, that shit's gonna suck.
very good. Very good. Yeah, this is unusually positive for you wrapping up a 3 versus 3 season. So, yes, I do see that it stands out. All right, TJ, how about you? Your final thoughts wrapping up this season.
I didn't even think about what Dagger said, but I really like to call out the unknowns of what Mercenary is going to do because of how big that fact. It's like Scoundrel or Bounty Hunter, right? But now we're like doubling down. I think it's a really good call out on what that's going to be in the term of threes. I'm one of the guys. I like Fatal's take on it. I like threes more, just because it gets more theory craftery. I don't know if that's a word or not. We'll take it that way.
It was dreadful, but we all knew what you meant.
Yeah, and that's where it can be pretty fun.
You to know that it is in fact not a word.
Shocking. I like it. I think going for next threes, I still fully expect we'll see Balin and the monster that it will be. And I think Fatal made a pretty good call out of that'll probably be the bottom front, and that'll be the new hotness that it goes through. And then we'll get our solution for that problem, et cetera, et cetera. I just hope it's not efficiency. I like to see what the Datacrons are going to look like, and I'd like a non-efficiency based matchup. I think for everybody's sake, that just seems to be a lot more fun when you get a little more slugfestery, or you get into a punching game, right? I think that's always been a lot more fun than who can hold the best data, who can do the best things. So I'm going to keep my hopes positive on that side of things. I think CG does a pretty good job of trying to do things, but unless we get more space, more characters just means more teams. So we'll see.
I fear. Tell me if this sounds crazy to you guys, but they hear us complain about this problem about too much on attack, and is it a possible design solution that they're entertaining that? So what you're saying is we implement a bespoke datacron that narrows the number of solutions that you can take against a given team down to, say 2, and I don't know. What if we had multiple such bespoke datacrons in play simultaneously, such that you want it to be not efficiency, you want it to be one shot. Well, okay, fine. Now you can have multiple teams on the board with bespoke datacrons, such that failure on any one of them constitutes an absolute bloodbath.
I will not put that evil out into the world, as you should not, Tass.
No. I'm saying the evil already exists in their hearts.
It's already out of the world.
It's the unspoken. Yeah, exactly. It's the unspoken evil of their hearts. It's already there.
We already rewarded their bad behavior. Like we already like you realize that like every Datacron that they did before Great Mothers was a test to see how far they could push the envelope. And Great Mothers may be like 105%, but I don't think it's much past like Tass said. I don't think the more I look at this Kron, the more I look at this team, I don't think that CG swung the pendulum too far in the direction that they wanted to swing. I think they may have overshot with this one slightly, but I don't think they overshot with this one by much, based on them announcing the bespoke Datacron for Balin. Like, I'm agreeing with Tass here, but yeah, it's one of those things where I don't like manufacturing defense through Datacrons, but at the same time, I prefer you manufacture defense through Datacrons than have this efficiency meta personally. personally.
Only part I'm going to call as a counter to that is this was just the setup of a marquee, I guess, high, like round, like second level marquee. Balin is not a marquee. So
that's why they overshot by a little bit.
I'm hoping that it's correct and that's an overshot, right?
I mean, Dagger's saying they put more power into that Kron to balance that out, as opposed to Balin, who will have more power in his kit and perhaps let a less ridiculous
I'm just talking about the overall layer of what they have for the characters, right?
Sure.
He's a journey character, and the strength level. So the strength level of a journey character with the bespoke. So even if they adjust the nozzle of the strength of the Datacron, mine lies into the next piece, right? Here's the nozzle of, we're gonna drop it down a notch, but you're still have a journey character, and that journey character is supposed to be really close to a GL.
Well, to be clear, Tass was kind of right, but to be a little clearer on what I meant was, I expect the Balin Kron level 9 to be as powerful as the Great Mother's level 9. I'm saying that I think they overshot where they expected Great Mothers to be by a smidge, because Tass said they narrowed it down to 2 counters, which is basically correct. I think they wanted the marquees, even if it is a special marquee. I still think that they, in the future, we'll know a lot what they actually plan once we see the Balin Kron, obviously. But the more I play with and against Great Mothers, the more I'm like, I don't know how good this team is without this Kron. Agreed. Whereas the Balin team without the Kron is going to be really good.
I think we all agree with that, right? I think that's the one thing, is I think we can all agree that without it, it's like, who called it? Fatal, I think, said it. It's like, without the Kron, even with the Kron, but didn't have Morgan, and all of a sudden he's taking a team with it, right? And it's killing it. And it's like, it's nothing. And it's combined with the Kron, it's a GL killer. Without it, it's like, it's cool. But DTMG is going to crush it, or Malgus is going to beat the hell out of it, right? It's not even comparable.
I think it'll be picked up by its Omicrons. I know Raz is getting up against the wall here, so I'm curious to his thoughts on this conversation.
Yeah, I was going to pivot to Sasha here next to get his final thoughts, but I guess if you want to, wrap up what they're saying, if you have any thoughts there, Sasha, and then give us your...
No, I mean, I think you guys have hit the nail on the head, and I think there's probably still more calibrating CG's doing with this, but the general overall strategy of OP Datacrons that really put their thumb on the scale for like competitive GAC or TW is something that they'll keep doing. And when it vanishes, I think you'll see Great Mother Squad go back to being like the expected strength of like a relatively recent marquee based squad, right? Like, so doesn't surprise me. When I was thinking about kind of go forward, it's this season and then even into the next Datacrons, next time we come back to 3v3. And that's the role of defense as a stat. And it's interesting. I mean, obviously, as we talk about on this show, we tend to face it varies, but like a lot of times we'll end up against, really bulked up accounts with tons of Datacron rerolls. And I really enjoyed the meta where there was pretty solid defensive viability. I don't think it requires 400%, a huge pile of 400% defense crons to do it. But I actually don't mind that they've been there. I think that's going to be an interesting shift when the current, I guess it's 16 goes away, and it's 17 and whatever 18 ends up bringing us. And that I think it's about as concentrated on defense as a stat. And I think that is playing a role in defensive viability right now. And then it's going to be interesting to see how that flips when we look at like 17, you're rolling across 8 different stats, whereas 16, it's against 6 stats. It was much easier to accumulate a high concentration of defense percent. There just were less options to roll against. So I'm going to be curious to see if we keep solid defensive viability, if the next Datacron set either doesn't have defense as a stat, or they just stick with 8 stats across that, and so it's much harder to roll. Because I actually, I have kind of a mixed relationship with it. It gets frustrating to bang your head against and fail DPS checks against 400% defense crons, but I'd rather have that and have some defensive viability than an efficiency meta. So that's kind of where my thoughts were about sort of just wondering over the next sort of Datacron set where things are going to settle just purely from a stat and its impact on efficiency versus mud throwing defense.
I think you make a very fair point. We'll all have our times where we gripe about running into something that had an absurd amount of defense and it blocked out an otherwise reliable counter for the rest of the current season. It was still good contemporary within the same week even, and it could fail. But to your point, without defense as a stat, historically defenses have been a lot less interesting. And unless I'm mistaken, this is the first time where we've had two sets immediately adjacent that both had defense as a stat. So I would expect, if they're going back to a more classic pattern, 18 would have something like Armor Pen on it to counter. So, yeah. Okay, yeah, Dagger said he had to drop. Thank you, Dagger. We'll catch you soon. But we already got his thoughts, so good deal. But, all right. Fair, Sasha. Thank you. Anything else you wanted to throw in? Because I know you're about having a dip, too.
Nope, that's it. Thank you, guys.
Okay, fantastic. All right, Fatal, how about you? Your final thoughts wrapping this up.
Yeah, season seems healthy. I'm kind of sad that I wasn't able to be in the mix and fight against the people that I usually fought against, because it seemed like it would have been I mean, I know I'm not like privy or exposed to all the less desirable stuff like armor spam that's going on, but I don't know. It just seemed like a good season, and it's always a joy to see players like Dagger go through the process that I did of, yeah, man, I don't like 3v3 either, but that's the thing. It just works. It does the thing that you need it to do to be an enjoyable experience. That's how they get you. That's the dark secret. I still don't like 3v3 conceptually. But it's just the more balanced feeling mood right now that lets you, rewards you for putting effort in.
Fair. I have always liked 3 versus 3. First, I'm not ashamed to say, from a purely results based perspective, like you, I tend to do better in 3s than 5s. It's obviously there's less engagement with 3s than 5s, so players like me that generally like it are should do better, will be more involved. But I hope for every person that is generally not liking 3 versus 3 to warm to it. It feels like a welcome break from 5s. It keeps the game fresh for me. I don't have enough time to get stale on one mode of Grand Arena before I have to go into the next one and I have to change gears. And it definitely feels like a significant way, a different change of how you plan out a board when it's that much larger. I wish for everybody to fall in love with 3s over time. And if none of those reasons were compelling to any of our viewers, consider this. Every other month, it's the only Grand Arena in town, so you might as well get to like it because it's here. You are here. It is happening. All right. Anything else you got, Fatal?
No. Just kind of trying to get through the next season. Not gonna worry about whether it's good or bad or whatever. I don't have any expectations for or against. Just kind of, get through it. Enjoy if there's anything there to enjoy, and
I know me and everyone else at home's also, just curious. How the kitties?
We have finally reached equilibrium that it seems like people are just starting to feel mostly okay again. The most recently sick cat is not 100%, but it's been like a day by day, and they're finally like getting back in the mix. That, yeah, no, it's been good. I think the one thing I would say is I have never previously owned cats that enjoy being carried, and now I have 3 that all deeply prefer to enjoy being carried. That it's like I'm not used to this dynamic. That I'll hold them for like 5 or 10 minutes, and it's like, no, this is not enough. I'm used to cats that just like want to chill on you.
I have one cat that's a real cuddle bug like that. The other one's like, I'll come to you, once every few hours for a scratch.
Yeah, it's like, I understand that. I'm good with that. I've done that plenty of times. But no, they're not actually all that interested in that, and they'll want to do it. But if you grab them and put them on top of you, they're like, nah, I'm going somewhere else.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But if you pick up and hold them, that's like a 15-20 minute affair, and will be the one who taps out first before they do.
A commitment, yeah. Tinsel, when I want to put her down, she'll hop back up into my lap as soon as she thinks I'm not looking, and then she'll flop across my lap, and then she will either reach out and extend her paw and just gently start dragging her nails across my flesh. Not enough to draw blood, but enough to be like, ow. Or, I get the sandpaper tongue until it's like, okay, fine, I'll pet you.
Yeah, no, it's
It's a life.
I'm still having to figure something out here because, at various points, I'll carry them around until an arm goes numb or something, or I'll be dual wielding one in each hand, and we're just like, I'll let them look out the window for the 15th time because I can't.
Pro tip: get a big pouch hoodie, and since if while they're still small, they will outgrow this solution. It won't last forever. But you can get, if you wear like a 2X hoodie, get a 3X hoodie with the big front pouch, and now you've got all three kitties can sack up in there for a time.
That is an idea that may help because, good God.
When you said numb arms, I'm like, oh no, this has to go. Because that'll be a daily affair. And what you'll gain in arm strength, you'll also become muscle bound. You'll just have your arm locked at 90 degrees for holding the cat.
Yep.
All right, and just be able to do it for hours. But that's all your arm does now.
I'm already there.
Yeah. Okay, might be time to look into that hoodie. I'm glad to hear everybody's good. Sounds like cat dad is good. I know you were sick for a little bit, so everybody's healthy.
Yeah, we're getting there.
All right.
I think trying to return to normal. The last step of the process is to finally tear apart my office to actually get it ready for them. Try to set up a cat cam or something. I don't know, but
yes, we need kitty cameras.
They should join the stream at some point. I think. And
I agree. Mascots are important. It's good.
Yeah,
good for channel point generation for the viewers. All right. Well, before I close out here, Fatal, where can the good folks find you? You're the only other content creator on the channel, so let's make sure we have the folks know where they can see you.
Twitch.tv/PlaybookTV.
Okay. And what's YouTube anytime soon, or are you still brewing in the back room on that? Still got something bubbling in the pot?
If there was ever going to be any time, I think it's going to be very soon.
Good.
The last hurdle in that process, I am on a new machine that has none of my old workflow that I need to learn how to use DaVinci Resolve. If I can do that, I am brimming with ideas and shit I want to say. If I haven't made that clear from me talking way too much on this show at some points.
No. Yeah. That's exactly why we're here. So that's fine. Looking forward to it, though. Yeah, I know, folks, myself included. Always interested to see if you're going to put something out. All right, man. Well, hey, thanks for everybody tuning into the show here. We've just made it to the end. It's the end of 3 versus 3. Next week will be the preview episode going into 5 versus 5. I'm still cooking up, who the special guest is. I've had a couple things fall through. Still working on it. We'll see what happens. But stay tuned for that. And, if you want to see me live, I stream on twitch.tv/Tassinix. Of course, this podcast is available on Spotify. I do put the RSS feed link in each video description, so if you are an Apple Podcast user or whatever other podcast platform you prefer, you can plug that link in and listen to it there. But this is uploaded as well to my YouTube channel, Tassinix Gaming. This also gets put out to YouTube podcasts as well. But yeah, also on my YouTube channel, Tassinix Gaming, some other Swugger-related content that I think you folks would be very interested in. Have the Datacron set review videos currently for sets 16 and 17. I make those with Aesop Rock, one of the number one, usually like number 1, number 2, number 3 player in the world, just one of the very best, fantastic guy to pick his brain on those. Made mod guides for you guys. Yeah, this started a few months ago. A community request to start covering teams and characters that you guys are interested in. Just wrapped up the Admiral Trench faction last week, digging into the Great Mothers team this week, but we'll keep that going. Appreciate you guys' interest there. And of course, let's see. Yeah, my streams. I also upload, my VODs from Twitch with chapters added for easy browsing. So that's all here. And by the way, guys, we did just hit 1K subscribers on YouTube. So that's a big mark, and I really appreciate you guys. The channel's had a meteoric growth in the last 6 months. This channel's maybe getting close to 4 years old, and I would say 3 years and 3 months in, it was about 400 or so subscribers. So just here in the last several months, it's gone more than 600 subscribers, and here we are, up over 1,000. So again, thank you all so much. Really appreciate that. And of course, if you enjoy what we're doing here and you want to support me, you want to support the stream, I did create a Cash App at you guys' request. That is $Tassinix. But if you want to get something back, if you want to join my Patreon community and get some benefits, check out patreon.com/Tassinix. For any upwardly mobile Grand Arena player, I firmly believe there is something there of interest for you. $5 a month gets you into the Tass House. You get early access to the Plotting and Scheming podcast. It usually comes out to the public on Friday. My patrons are usually getting it Tuesday night, within hours of us recording, depending on how cooperative YouTube is feeling. You also get early access to the Datacron set reviews, as well as a dedicated text and voice channel on Discord where you can usually find me lurking if you want to, hang out, pick my brain, just chat, whatever. But thank you so much to Andrew, Arj, Brock Thudsteel, Deadpool Cow 28, JJ's Productions Twitch, Jobin4527, Johnny B. Ottawa, Miasmal, Ray's Malbus, Renee Bebe, Sam Vimes, Squed, Stark Strategy Gamer, Sweens14, White Wolf, and Zoltre. Moving up to $10 a month is VIP Access Plus. This is a bundle with Patreon access to me and to OmegaBot. So if you watch my streams, that's the tool I use to get an at-a-glance sense of what my opponent's about offensively and defensively. The patron level tool lets you reach back further than just the last 2 weeks in time to get a very comprehensive sense of what an opponent's about. And you get a downloadable HTML report with link integrations to swugga.gg, quickly look up counters, what will work, what will drop. Really nice tool. Can't say enough good about it. Thank you to Stryker and Dash Sotnikam for taking that offer. At $15 a month is VIP Access Premium, and this is the DoubleBot bundle. So Patreon access to me, to OmegaBot, and then to Hot Utils. And that is the #1 tool for your mass mod management, making loadouts, swapping your whole roster around with just a couple of clicks. A couple of players here on the stream, Dagger and TJ, both use, Fatal and TJ, both use it for automating for Grand Arena. And, it does all this and more. So thank you so much to Duckstab, Funky, Ibenek, General Milan, Sir Boss, Quig, and Wilco for taking that. And of course, at the top of the list, in Jester's Club Elite, the one and only Nomad's Reaper. Over the years, he's just come onto the stream and dropped hundreds of subs in one go, thousands of biddies. An incredible player and a really generous supporter over this time. Thank you so much, man. All right, and then, of course, lest I forget, our special thanks. First to Yoda Force, one of my original supporters back in the day, bought me the mic I'm speaking to you on right now. Though he has long since quit the game, we wish him well from the other side. To Mrs. T, my wife, thank you for your diligent work in the background, keeping our industrious and destructive 6-year-old from, ruining our home while I am attempting to be halfway decent at a phone game. Really appreciate you. Thank you. And of course, to my co-hosts here on Plotting and Scheming, Dagger, TJ, Sasha, Aisha, and Fatal. Gentlemen, it is a pleasure and a privilege to record this show with you on a weekly basis. Though there can be complications between our busy, work, family, and possible kitten-raising schedules, the job is nevertheless getting done. I think we all learned something from the show, and our viewers are enjoying it. The show keeps growing steadily week over week. You guys are such a huge part of that success. Thank you all so much. All right. Come back over to the main scene to close out. Looking forward to catching you all in the preview. We are currently now in the early days of Conquest for the second run of Set 17. So this is your opportunity to, flesh out your Datacron rosters, shore up any holes that you felt playing with those Set 17 crons in this last season. Get yourself ready. This is the last chance. But until next time, it's been real. It's been awesome. It's been real awesome. Take care.